What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for the post-show for NXT TakeOver 30, which just went down a few minutes ago. So we're going to give you our first impressions, our immediate thoughts on everything that happened, the full results, recap, all that other kind of good stuff. Who are we? Well, I'm your host as always, Tony Mango. And joining me as always are Callum Wiggins.
Hey, everyone.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
So, TakeOver 30, we've had 31 of these events, because the first one wasn't called TakeOver, but general idea in mind. I would normally ask, how do you feel about the pay-per-view, but I want to set this up ahead of time. I'm the only one who got to really see all of it, for the most part, between the three of us. So to give us a little bit of breakdown of where everybody's coming from, I watched the whole thing from top to bottom, but Rob, what were you... What was your whole situation about?
I work for Fightful on the weekends, and as it happens, I was covering Dynamite play-by-play, so I couldn't watch the early show, but I did catch the latter portion of it, and from what I saw, it looked fun.
And Callum, your side of the fence?
It's really fucking late, Tony. And I'm not always in the best state of mind in terms of my tiredness or level of awakeness for this show, and nothing really, as in some past takeovers have been able to give me something which really sinks my teeth into and gets me woken up and get started. This one didn't do anything for me until the third match. So I have notes from the previous matches, but they're a bit of a blur and they're less comprehensive than they usually are for me.
Yeah, if you can't tell by his accent, Callum is not on the Eastern time zone. He's clearly from Montana. No, it's time difference vastly different, and of course that's a big factor in that. But I will say, for an overall perspective of this, I enjoyed pretty much everything on the card. I didn't really like a couple little nitpicks here and there, and there's something about one match that I'm not a big fan of, but for the most part, this was a rock solid pay-per-view for me that I just enjoyed from pretty much the start to the finish. And saying that, I will say, though, it didn't feel like TakeOver 30 to me. It felt like it was just another TakeOver. So I'm a little bit underwhelmed when it comes to that. You know, TakeOver 25 felt a little bit more like a special TakeOver, and this was a little bit more on par with just, TakeOver New Orleans or Boston or whatever you would want to call any of those kind of things would be. I didn't feel like it was that special. So...
had Pyro.
They had Pyro, yeah. I'm a big fan of Karrion Kross's Pyro in particular. And they had, some of the, elements of trying to make it feel like it was special, but it didn't match up to some of those things. I didn't really think that it would on some expectations. We'll get into this a little bit more, but for instance, I didn't think that this ladder match was going to be as good as the original ladder match to crown the inaugural North American champion, and it wasn't. But despite those things, I still enjoyed it a lot. So whether you agree with that opinion or you disagree with that, I still want to know what you guys have to say in the comment section below. So by all means, drop your comments there on YouTube, and if you're over there, then you should hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already, and ring that little notification bell. Hit the like button on the video as well, too, and try to take advantage of the new applause function that's on there, too, because that is another way to boost the revenue on here, and of course, it's only if you have the spare change that you want to be able to do that and show your support in that way. There's also the new membership thing where you can hit the little join button on the YouTube thing and take part of that, which is essentially the YouTube version of the Patreon. And of course, the Patreon is out there for anybody who wants to show their support for the Patreon and Smark Moment in general. The $1 tier all the way up through. You got the $10 Darkcast tier. We got the Patreon exclusive episodes. You got the Pick Your Poison tier where you can request special features. All that good stuff is all over those places on there. So if you want to help this channel and this website grow, those are two of the main ways for you to do that. But if you are listening to us on something like Spotify or something like that, leave us a star rating or a follow or whatever they have on that thing. And since you can't leave a comment there, tweet at us at Smark Moment, send something on Facebook, post on the website, whatever it is to get your opinions out there. Look at that, a lot of plugs out of the way very quickly. Let's start diving into this kind of thing here. We had the pre-show, which was a little bit of just some recap and an analysis type stuff until we got into our triple threat #1 contenders match to determine who was going to fight Imperium for the NXT Tag Team Championship down the line. We don't know exactly when, but we can kind of assume it's just going to happen on an NXT episode. And that was Breezango winning. They beat Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, as well as Legado del Fantasma. And I was surprised about that. I thought that this was a Burch and Lorcan win for sure. Because Breezango, they've had their chances and stuff. And, I mean, it's kind of just circling back. But I'm not opposed to it. I like Breezango. So I enjoyed the match good enough. And I'm interested to see where they go from here. I'm a little bit in the disappointed side of things that Burch and Lorcan still don't seem to get any kind of big wins. But whatever. How you guys feeling about the idea of Breezango getting a title shot?
Not a fan because they already got it. I was really hoping for Lorcan and Burch.
I mean, they were telling the story on commentary about the fact that both Fandango and Tyler Breeze have never won a championship in their entire times in WWE or NXT. And so maybe that's going to be the final big payoff, is that they're actually going to win the titles, and so get that monkey off their back, as it were. In terms of the actual match itself, it was just, I don't know, like, especially with the standards of tag team wrestling in NXT, as we've discussed previously, it was just 6 guys doing moves for the very vast majority of it. It didn't have any structure to the match together. I'm not a huge fan of these 3 people in the rings for these triple threat tag team matches now, as opposed to what they previously did, because it just makes it more chaotic and unstructured. There's some cool dives to the outside and a few decent spots, but yeah, nothing. And the finish kind of came out of nowhere with just Tyler Breeze just super kicking Lorcan and pinning him. Yeah, so match didn't really do anything for me, even though there was nothing particularly wrong with it. And I can understand the result only that Breezango actually win the titles at the end of it.
This match and 2, if not 3 other matches on this card, I think can be summed up pretty well by saying what you had said. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just nothing all that super special. Like, ultimately, you remember the great meals that you've had and you rewatch the movies that are fantastic and all that. But if you watch a movie that's just okay, or if you eat a meal that's just sort of like, yeah, it was a good burger or whatever like that, then it's good, but it's not great. And that's kind of where this falls. We've had plenty of amazing tag team matches. And this definitely wasn't one of them. But it wasn't bad. It's just a match. It's fine. We had then Finn Balor against Timothy Thatcher. And that match is one of the other ones that I feel is kind of along that side of things, where it was a little bit different. And I'm glad that they put this at this part of the card, because I think if they would have gone with this following the ladder match, for instance, people might consider it kind of boring in retrospect. It's kind of slowing down the pace and everything. This was more, you got a submission guy and you got another technical wrestler, and they're targeting body parts and everything. So it was a little bit not just like spots and, kicking out of finishers and all that, which is totally fine to do that too. I liked it enough that I want to see another match between these two, particularly if they can give a win to Timothy Thatcher, because once again, Finn Balor just beat another person, and I don't know, I'm kind of getting a little bit of this feeling that, like, Balor maybe complained that he wanted to go back down to NXT, and part of this whole idea was, and I should beat everyone. Like, that kind of, like, what's the thing from Bob Holly? The whole, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you give me the belt? And then I beat everyone.
I got an idea. I'll beat everyone.
It's kind of like that. It's like Finn Balor is just sort of, oh, I know how I can fix NXT. I go there, and I beat the crap out of everybody, one by one. Just Gargano, a dream, and, well, he lost a dream on this week, but, I beat this guy and that guy and that guy. We just kind of go through the mix, and then eventually I go back up to the main roster or something. I want Thatcher to get a higher up spot, and I feel like that's kind of a disappointment that he very quickly got into this whole thing with Finn Balor just to sort of lose that. And if they don't follow it up, then it'll be a much more disappointing situation. But the match was fine. I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match for the most part. There was some good physicality in the grappling to start off with. I like the fact that they started it off. They didn't lock up or anything. Finn Balor's obviously pissed about him screwing him out of his shot at the North American Championship, and so they went at it straight away. Some of the early grappling and transitions was pretty good. It got a little bit stale towards the middle part with Timothy Thatcher in control, but there was a good moment where Balor tries the coup de grace the first time, but his knees buckle as he lands because of the earlier work that had been done on the knee. And there's this great shot of Balor knowing that his leg is fucked, and Timothy Thatcher noticing that his leg is fucked, and they're just straight onto it. And that was really good. From that point, it just got a little bit stale, and we'll obviously talk about that a little bit more in the main event with some in terms of rest holds and things like that. But yeah, it was a good match though, and I completely agree with your sentiment that I think that Thatcher should have won this here. And I know that there's the idea that Balor is a guy who shouldn't really be losing that often because of his status in NXT, but they're not. I really like Timothy Thatcher, and I think that he has a lot of potential going forward, but they're not doing anything with him. But it might be a case of something like the Keith Lee situation, where Keith Lee basically didn't do anything for the first year of his NXT run, and then they finally said, okay, we've got to click with this guy and then actually do stuff with him. So hopefully that works out with Timothy Thatcher. Hopefully it doesn't take that long for them to notice that. But yeah, I would like to see another match with these two going forward. I think this is just a sense of what they can do rather than the finished article.
That coup de grace moment was definitely my highlight of this match, because I loved the idea that Balor, he shows that he has his legs are messed up, and when he does that, Thatcher's like, oh, and Balor's like, ah, shit, you noticed that I did that, like that kind of thing. That was a good little moment there. That was easily my favorite part of this whole thing.
Yeah, but it is getting to a point a little bit now where the submission guy can't win matches by submission,
unless it's against against
like a
Denzel Dejournette. Why we both went with him. He's the resident jobber.
We know
at
the
this
job
point.
guy. Yeah, we know the job guys.
Yeah. I'd like to see Thatcher potentially win that North American Championship sometime down the line. I think that he could work out really well like that. So I'd love to see him beat Balor and start rising up the card a little bit more and more. That took us to the North American Championship. The ladder match was, 5 points of some different superstars here. Bronson Reed, Velveteen Dream, Cameron Grimes, Damian Priest, and Johnny Gargano. Hell of a match in a lot of ways. Not, of course, as I said before, not as good as the original one. I'm sure that this would have been more energetic and better if we would have had an actual crowd, and that sucks that that's the case, but that's the way that things are right now. But I was pretty much a fan of this from start to finish. I liked all the spots. I mean, some of them were a little bit more rough than they probably should have been, like Gargano's powerbomb that he did with Grimes. That was a little bit rough looking. One of the standout moments, Velveteen Dream gets knocked off of the ladder and springboards himself off the top rope on past the barricade and onto a table. That was pretty a holy shit moment.
It would have been if the camera didn't completely miss it for the most part.
Yeah, still, you know what was going on, and you were like, oh, fuck, okay. That kind of thing.
I'm sure it popped a lot of people, especially considering the fact that at least at this particular moment, the hashtag Fire Velveteen Dream is trending worldwide at the moment. So
yeah,
I think his presence in this match hurt it. Not just due to the fact that, as you said, the match itself was very good. I don't want to take away from it too much, but there's two things that hurt it. First of all, it wasn't, as you mentioned, as good as the first ladder match for the North American Championship, and the issue is that that's the only thing you can really compare it to,
right?
Because that's what it did before, and the fact that it wasn't anywhere near as good as it. It was still very good, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as it. It drags it further down in my estimations. And secondly, it's the fact that Velveteen Dream is in there when he. By rights, there's no reason that you had to put Velveteen Dream in this match, and you could tell there's some sort of atmosphere surrounding him now due to the allegations that have been going around that's making it difficult for anybody to really look past that, and just anything he does in the ring right now is marred in this whole. Okay, I'm watching an alleged sex offender going on this sort of thing. It's just
worth noting Triple H just skated another question regarding that on the post-show media call. Nick Houseman asked him, and he's just like, listen, we looked into it. There's nothing else we can say. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think at this point anybody's going to accept any answer other than he's fired, even if like the allegations somehow get cleared. I just think it's one of those things. The stink is on, and it's always going to be on, and that's the part that sucks.
Yeah,
Short
so they
of
have
making a villain out of the people that have made the accusations and turning things around, it probably won't.
well, it's just a case of obviously we don't know what the real truth is, anything, and I don't want to go
Right.
like by Twitter justice or anything along those lines. If he does turn out to be innocent, but it's just a case of everything he's doing right now is just has that underlying sense of we shouldn't be enjoying anything that he does right now, because what if he did do that stuff? And then you just feel like it's part of the reason, like in the power rankings this week, and I know that's like a really like minor case or anything like that, like a little article I write in Smark at the moment. But it's just a case of, I didn't want to put him on the power rankings because I just feel like, well, that's going to just, okay, in a couple of months' time, this could just all just blow up. It's like, okay. And that's just like a really little case of it. But I think the other stuff that was going on really well, like my favourite spot from the entire match was Reed doing a big splash to Gargano with Candice LeRae riding his back.
Yeah, I like that. That was
Because
fun.
that was my favourite moment. But after that point, I just felt like, okay, they're going to do that, going to have a few more transitions, battle on the top of the ladder for a little while, and then whoever's going to win, that will just win. But it just kept going for another like 10 minutes, and I don't feel like, even though you had some of the cool spots like the sunset flip powerbomb, which looked really bad to Cameron Grimes because he caught the edge of the ladder, so that looked like it sucked, and the dream like crashed through the tables on the outside. It just didn't feel like any of those minutes added anything to it except just extending the runtime, at least in my eyes. And so, like, I would have thought, like, like, if they had just gone from the Reed thing and then just moved on to towards the finish, it would have had the same rating in my mind as if they hadn't have done that extra stuff at the end of it. But yeah, it's still a very good match. Like, just a car crash style ladder match that you'd expect from NXT at this point.
I think if they would have cut
I'm
out those
very
things
sad
toward the end, it would have been a disappointment for me and the match wouldn't be as well. But I'm all in favor of compacting things a little bit more and maybe shaving off a minute or so here and there.
I'm very sad I didn't get to watch this one. I did see the Bam Bam Bigelow gear.
Yeah.
I'm all for Bronson Reed. Big fan. This could have been his night, but I guess you guys called it. You said if it wasn't going to be Balor, it would be Damian Priest. So,
Yeah,
kudos to you.
I know obviously I predicted the fact that it was going to be Damian Priest, but after just watching it and seeing everyone else in the match and seeing they did like their celebration spot later on in the night with him just getting in the jacuzzi with two
Yeah.
hot women.
Amazing.
One of them
So
was
just
Brandy
Triple
Lauren,
H.
and I don't know who
yeah.
the other one was.
The other was Jamie Jamison. I don't know where she's from, but I was told
That must
that's
be a
who it
fake-
was, and
That must be a gimmick name, right?
All right, porn
I
star,
mean,
superstar.
yeah, I mean, 5 stars, but go on, Callum.
But I just felt like watching it, there were 3 better options than Damian Priest by the end of it. Because I just like watching it and just feel like he's so there. I know he's did a gimmick of like just being surrounded by hot women and stuff like that, as if that's supposed to make me care about his actual character. The fact that he's surrounded by hot women just feels like, okay, that's like something that you put in place of actually having a character.
I like the guy enough. I'm for it.
No, he's not the worst. Definitely not the worst choice you could have to win this match, and we've already discussed who that would have been. But I went out of this thinking, I went out of this thinking I was disappointed that Cameron Grimes didn't win.
I think I would have been disappointed if Cameron Grimes won. Something about him not connecting with me.
I remember Tony's awful Cameron Grimes impression last night.
I'm forgetting what I had said. I'm Cameron Grimes. Or whatever. At the right place, at the right time. That was still, at that point in the night, that was the highlight for me. And then we get Pat McAfee against Adam Cole. And holy shit, I figured Pat McAfee would be pretty decent. This dude was better than like half the NXT roster. He understood how to sell. He understood how to like balanced psychology and athleticism. The dude did a swanton and a moonsault and jumped off the top rope with like ease. This dude kicked ass.
He was absolutely awesome in this match. It's definitely, if not the best, one of the best celebrity appearances in a match before.
Easily.
This guy could pick it up immediately, and he could sign up with NXT or whatever in the next week or whatever. And I could easily see him being world champion by like the WrestleMania weekend next year. He's that good.
Isn't that weird? Because it's like you expect that like some athletes that they might be able to do some stuff in the ring here and there, and like even when Ronda came in, it was like, well, she's been in MMA and everything like that, so she should have a leg up on a lot of her people, and she's not that bad and like whatever, like that kind of stuff. But I was like, maybe Pat McAfee will be able to pull off some decent stuff here and there. And about 2 minutes into it, I'm like, he knows his character better than a lot of other people. That's interesting, and he's doing some in-ring work that's actually like a good looking headlock, and like he's running the ropes well, and he's doing this and he's doing that. I'm like, I'm legit enjoying this as if this would have just been a regular, I don't know, a number one contenders match or something like that. Like, you take knowing that that's Pat McAfee and that he's not a member of the roster out of the equation, show that to somebody else. I'm assuming that they're just going to go, oh, I like this guy. Is he like he used to be North American champion or something like that? Like, just, he fit so well. It was ridiculous. Loved it.
Yeah, that moonsault out of the corner and then leaping up onto the top rope to deliver a superplex. It's just ridiculous. That's something that you expect Ricochet to do or something along those lines. And he's just a guy who was only a football player and a podcaster a couple of weeks ago, and now he's just there, and you just feel like, yeah, he just fits in perfectly. So again, I still have the issue in my mind about the fact that he had such a great performance that he absolutely overshadowed Adam Cole in this match.
Easily overshadowed. I mean, this was his show.
Yeah, Adam Cole was good. It's not like Adam Cole did anything wrong in the match, but it just and it's the idea that he's meant to be the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, and he got blown out. He obviously won the match in the end, as he should have done, but he got blown out of the water in terms of performance by Pat McAfee. So I guess that was kind of part of it, because obviously it is his showcase, but still, that there's a bit of an issue with that still.
Did he do exactly what I said he would do and carry the celebrity through the show, or did the celebrity hold his own?
The celebrity
carried Adam Cole, kind of.
Yeah. He outperformed Adam Cole. Like, he was so much more in tune with his character. He was jaw-jacking Adam Cole throughout the entire thing. He was selling great. He was, just everything kind of made sense. Adam Cole was just kind of there to do the things at the start and then have the finish at the end. Everything else was just all Pat McAfee, pretty much.
They even had a good spot here where he went to go kick Adam Cole on the outside and he kicked the ring steps instead. And then that kind of set up the idea that when he did eventually kick Cole, that Cole was able to kick out of it, because potentially maybe that kick wasn't as forceful as it normally would have been if he wouldn't have messed up his foot. Like, moments like that are just kind of like this logic where you go, if you could do that, then why are you doing all this other stuff? And like, if you got like a Pat McAfee can come in here and I don't know how long he's been training for this kind of stuff, but it can't be as long as some of the people. 2 weeks, and he knows how to do every facet of this job better than some people that have been in NXT for like 3, 4, 5, 10 years at this point. That's crazy and awesome. Like, he deserves so much praise for this.
Yep, I would be happy with them signing him.
Me too.
If he wants to do this full time, then he's more than welcome.
With that level of a performance, and the fact that he does have star power that he's already bringing into the mix, I'd be like, you know what? Sign him in one of those deals where he doesn't have to do all of the super crazy stuff the way that a lot of other people do. Like, put him on one of those kind of Rey Mysterio-ish deals, Let him do the TVs and not have to do like, they don't really do house shows the same, but still, you know what I mean? Like,
I can say, because I'm listening to the media call in my ears, and Triple H said this isn't his last time. They're going to sit down and talk to him and see if he wants to do it full time.
That is, that's going to be something that's really cool, because you figure we almost had the whole Rob Gronkowski thing, and that became like this big deal that could potentially be this big, you know, draw for the company, and it ends up just fizzling out into absolutely nothing. And then now they show that footage of Vince McMahon falling off the thing, and it's like that's it. That's the big story we've been hearing about. It's that he fell a couple feet down into this giant crash pad. Like,
well, no. It's the fact that the fucking football player didn't let him do it. Like,
that's what I mean, though. That's where it's like Vince had to do that for you. Like, that's nothing. Why? That's the big story where it was like, oh God,
like it's another day at the office.
Yeah, I'm like that's you could tell a little 6-year-old and be like, hey, you want to jump off here onto this padding? And they'd be like, yeah, and just do it. Like, you go to any of those like Discovery Zone, is that the name of it? That used to be back in the day. It's like kids like jungle gym type things and stuff like that. Like, that's the whole point of those, is you jump from like high spots and do what they have it at Access where you can jump off the top rope into the pit and whatever. Like, yeah, it's nothing. Come on, Gronk.
I'd love to know the disparity of how much Gronk got paid for his appearances in WWE compared to what Pat McAfee just got paid for his stuff.
Yeah, it's incalculable how much better Pat McAfee was as a performer in this than what we got out of Gronk. So if they can bring McAfee in for more than this, I'm all for it. I'd love to see him be in a match with Gargano. I'd love to see him in a match against Ciampa. Just to be a manager even, because he's a good talker. Like, this is great. This was easily my favorite part of the whole night. Like, no questions down.
Yep, it was all downhill from here.
That's not a phrase, but you go with it. No questions down.
No questions asked, no hands down, whatever it is.
I'm excited to go back and watch this and the ladder match.
Definitely worth checking out. Now, I did like Io Shirai against Dakota Kai. That's not to say that I hated that or anything. Early on, Io Shirai did a spot where she ended up landing on her head a little bit. So I was like, crap. Like, there you go. There's an injury. But thankfully, it didn't end up being the case. She did seem a little bit frazzled, but she got her wits about her afterward. And this was a Dakota Kai show in a lot of ways. She was the one that was really driving the whole match and showing a lot of intensity between a lot of things. I wrote down that one of my favorite parts of this whole thing was just funny, where part of her hair extensions fell out. And in my mind, I'm like, well, there's our hair versus hair match. kind of thing. But I liked it. And ultimately, there's not too much that I have to say about it. They did a ref bump, and I wasn't expecting that. And then that got me thinking, oh, man, we might actually get, like, Raquel might be involved, and we might get Dakota Kai winning this championship. So they got me on that one. I'll admit it.
If the commentary team didn't open their damn mouth with the, oh, well, this is definitely it. It's definitely over. Oh, I would have genuinely thought, okay, Dakota Kai's winning this belt.
To be honest, I didn't know that they were doing that because I tuned them out since we didn't have Morrow tonight.
Oh,
well. Good idea.
Yeah. I like Corey and I like Vic, so there wasn't the worst commentary team you could get.
No, I mean, we could have had plenty of other people in the past that have been worse, but, you know, without Morrow being there to just really sell things, it just becomes background noise. And Io Shirai won. She retained title by pinfall after a really nice moonsault, which followed a moonsault that caught Raquel right in the head. So that was kind of weird. But then Raquel attacked after the match, and Rhea Ripley made the save, and that made me just instantly think, so why didn't we get Rhea Ripley versus Dakota Kai with Raquel on the outside, like the most logical way? Why did we have to go with the Charlotte Flair title win, who drops it to Io, then switches over to this, and then Rhea does that? Like,
Tony, it was a different time. It was a different year. It was,
not a different year.
Thinking. It was. Oh, it absolutely was. We had people when they were booking this at first.
No, same year. She won the title at WrestleMania, remember?
Yeah, I'm saying that with the way this year has felt, it's felt like multiple years.
Yeah. Well.
And I think that I walked away from this with one thought. Raquel Gonzalez is going to get a Diesel-sized push. I think she's the star. I think Dakota is going to be background compared to Raquel.
Possibly.
In terms of like my thoughts about this match, it was just kind of there for me. But I've seen Io Shirai have a lot better matches than this before, and probably even Dakota Kai herself as well, with like the feud that she had earlier this year with Tegan Nox. And it was good. I'm not going to deny that it was good, and the Dakota Kai did take control of it for a long time. But there were a lot of submission rest holds. There was a lot of just going through the motions. I felt a little bit. It picked up towards the second half. Like there was the spots in the early on, like you said, when Io landed on her head, and then there was a good closing sequence with both the referee getting involved to give you that slight feeling that Dakota's going to win, and maybe Io would be going up to the main roster, because that's the only way I can really see. Reason I'd say Kai winning is the fact that Io Shirai was going to be moving up at some point. But yeah, and then Io taking them both out and scoring the victory with another moonsault. I think that kind of the big issue was the idea that at the end of it, the match that you would want to look towards is Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah,
and I mean, obviously that's like a match that's I don't know how good it will be, because I don't know how good Raquel has gotten in the time since we last saw her in an actual prominent match. But yeah, it just feels like that's overshadowing the title a little bit at the moment. I'm assuming the winner of that match will get the next title shot at AEO anyway.
I would like to see Rhea Ripley get her belt back.
At this point, I don't. I feel like they screwed it up so much that I just want her to go to the main roster and just screw it. Just move on.
Yeah, I think it's fine either way. It's just whichever one of them loses the title when they eventually have a match, because I assume that'll be the next TakeOver match, should just go up to the main roster immediately afterwards, because there's nothing else for them to do once whichever one of them loses. So I'd be fine with either of them going up, really, because they both have star power and they both have a lot of potential, and they put together good matches. So I think getting one of them away from the other one, because they're both just going to be competing for the spot of top woman in NXT for a while. Otherwise, I don't think it's better to just get one of them out of there eventually.
Ideal scenario in my mind, what I'd be doing if I were in some kind of creative control capacity, and there's plenty of things I'd be doing that would be different with what WWE's doing right now. But I think I would have Raquel versus Rhea sometime over the next few weeks on NXT, maybe like 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, whatever it is. However you can get there without stretching things out to an absurd amount of time, and book it as a number one contenders match. Have Rhea Ripley win, and book Io versus Rhea, where Raquel screws Rhea. Then you get one blow-off match again with Raquel versus Rhea. Rhea wins that, and then by that time, I'm assuming that we'll have had the draft, or we'll be like right around that time. I don't know if that was supposed to be. That's October, right? I think that's when he had said it.
The draft, yeah, October.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be October. So if you kind of write that up as that's Rhea Ripley's exit, then you send her over to SmackDown. I think she's Raw. That gets everybody the way. Well, I guess if it's the draft, you could rearrange that.
Bro, Raw's got nobody right now. Raw's got Sasha and Bailey, and SmackDown have Sasha and Bailey.
Raw's got Bianca. Raw's got Shayna. Raw's got Asuka.
Bianca. But the way they're acting, Raw's got only Sasha and Bailey.
But I mean,
everything up.
There's a difference between what they're acting like and what they actually have to work with. Look at SmackDown. They've got Carmella, who's absent, and Dana and Tamina, and you know what I mean? Like, Sonya or Mandy's going to leave tomorrow. SmackDown needs more people, so
I'll give you that.
You got to balance out the rosters in some way, and if they push Raw people over to SmackDown the way that they should have, like, they move over Mickey, they move over maybe Liv, whatever it is, I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're not doing a fantasy booking thing here, but then you just bump Rhea up to the main roster and just move on, because at this point, if she beats Io, they're both baby faces, and it'll just be a step down. If she doesn't win that title back, she's hanging around for no reason. Let's do the Raquel thing, get it out of the way, and then move on. And then by that matter, Mercedes Martinez, give the belt to her. She was the one that beats Io. Anyway, I wrote a little note that somebody, when they did the whole Rhea and Raquel stare down, somebody in the crowd was like, "Stop talking, just make contact."
Yeah.
I don't know what that was about, but I thought that was really interesting.
They've had a few people purposely be dicks, I think, to keep that like vibe of the smart ass fan, because they've had a few people just say like whatever, and that's a funny one.
Well, smart ass fan, the new variation of Smark Out Moment coming soon. Really quickly, I'm going to toss out another plug here before we get to our main event thing. I mentioned before, we got the Patreon, we got the YouTube stuff, and, there's different ways for you to show your support for us on the monetary side of things. But another one of those is the merchandise shops. We got Redbubble and TeePublic shops for Smark Out Moment, for A Mango Tees, and for Fanboys Anonymous. So check those designs out, browse the catalogs of all the different product options you can put those designs on, and if you're interested in anything, go ahead and pick it up. I don't get obviously all of the sale. I get a portion of it, but even a portion of anything like that, whether it's a little sticker or a t-shirt or a hoodie or a magnet or whatever you buy, is still going towards the fund of helping Smark Out Moment grow. And if you don't know what Fanboys Anonymous is, that is the geek culture website where you'll find anything that's on the spectrum of superhero stuff, movie reviews, TV show things, video game stuff, comic book talk, whatever it is. All that stuff you'll find over on there. Hoping to get not only my review of Lucifer Season 5, Part 1 up pretty soon. I'm about midway through episode 4 of that right now, just because this weekend is crazy with WWE type stuff. But it's also that's on the mix, as well as the Superman Man of Tomorrow fan tracks that Rob and I are going to potentially do, maybe even tonight. It kind of depends on if that gets out on digital or not. So pay attention to those things. Another Week in Geek coming up. Got to cover some of the fandom stuff whenever I get a chance to check that stuff out. So, plenty of things happening over there if you enjoy that kind of stuff. And if you don't, well, there's still plenty of Smark Out Moment stuff coming your way as well. So we will get more into that in a moment by continuing on here with the main event. Keith Lee.
Before the main event, there was a vignette for NXT UK.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, totally forgot about that. September 17th, we're getting the return, and that's all they've said. So they didn't specify if that was going to be like, we're going to roll right into the TakeOver event that we were supposed to get.
Triple H said on the media call, don't expect the TakeOver in October. Okay. We're going to get started in September. That's going to be pushed back, but we're very excited to get started. They're going to be doing it from the BT Sports studio in London. So, and more studio wrestling in 2020.
So what's the deal with that? Because I don't really know anything about BT Sports in that studio.
Well, BT Sports are the people that carry WWE programming at the moment. So they carry Raw and SmackDown from Sky after Sky dropped them. So if they have access to the studios, then they might as well if they have a relationship with BT, they might as well have access to it. I don't know if BT Studios has ever been converted to promote professional wrestling before. I assume not. So I don't know how it's actually going to end up looking.
It hasn't, but this was apparently the company's idea, BT Sports idea.
Okay. Well, I guess they're trying to foster the relationship a little bit more, considering how much of a colossal failure the move to BT Sport has been to WWE, which was based around the fact that BT Sport is not seen in as many homes as Sky Sports already is. Sky Sports is already a paid-for subscription, so it's not free TV, and BT's an even smaller subset of that. So I think that at the moment, like, WWE shows are getting somewhere between, like, in the tens of thousands of viewers, not even into the hundreds of thousands, for like Raw and SmackDown in the UK.
Wow, that's awful.
Yep. I think I said to Rob a little while ago, like, it might have just been like in a conversation in a chat or whatever, but I think that at the moment Impact Wrestling gets more viewers in the UK than WWE does.
Yeah,
because they're on a different thing.
Yeah, because Impact's on a free TV. Well, it's on Sky, but it's like on a more like readily available TV platform.
But how many people? Like, I'm sure the UK it's still the most over market. It's just a lot of people are streaming their stuff or getting it, through other means now.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that people in the UK aren't watching WWE and they just have gone off it completely. It's just the fact that very few people, a very small subsection of the population has BT Sport, and so that restricts their viewership on that platform in particular.
So how is it do you watch Raw and SmackDown? Do you watch it through BT?
I view it through legal means. I'll say that say that much. And the lawyers can't say anything about it.
So they're going to be recording that from the Legal Means Sportatorium. Yeah.
I find my ways of viewing it, and to be fair, I've more realistically in the past I've actually just gone through YouTube and checked out clips because I don't watch the whole thing from start to finish because I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, you're lucky.
I know.
Well, I guess we'll figure out what happens with NXT UK once it starts happening. It's not something that I'm super duper like, man, I can't wait for that to happen because it's never been my cup of tea, especially since I don't drink tea. But hey, that's
half the roster's gone now, so
that's true. We don't have a whole lot of that going on. So we'll see how that works. I'll be paying attention to that and posting crap up on the 17th, I guess. But we got that. We got the thing with Damian Priest. We got that Ciampa is going to be returning next week. And that might be even a factor for what happened here in the main event because Karrion Kross defeated Keith Lee by pinfall to win the NXT Championship. The match itself...
The biggest story coming out of this, though, is Karrion Kross is hurt.
Really?
Yep.
Come on.
He's hurt. Yeah, he looks like he separated his shoulder.
That's ridiculous. Well, that even more so is going to drive home the point that I was going to say, which was the biggest thing that I disliked about this card was the fact that we don't get a Keith Lee proper title reign because of this.
Keith Lee's going up, bro. He's going.
He has to be at this point because it's the same kind of situation as Rhea Ripley for me, where it doesn't serve much of a purpose to keep him around since once you've already won that championship, there's not much more else you can do. It's not like the main roster where, and I know NXT is the main roster. No, it isn't. It's just not. It's more high up on that hierarchy than it ever has been, yet it's still on a different level. It's just the way that it is. And once you get to Raw and SmackDown, there literally is no other momentum to go beyond that. It's just cementing a Hall of Fame career, and you can do that in plenty of different ways. But once you win that NXT championship or the NXT Women's Championship, you're done. Then move up. Go to the other thing. Prove that you can win the Raw and SmackDown titles. Now that Keith Lee's lost that, I would love to see Keith Lee go up to the main roster. And for that matter, just if not for the sake of keeping him happy and keeping her happy and just freshening things up, move Mia Yim up. Why not? She's ready. Go ahead and do it. If Alexa Bliss could come up on the main roster and win the championship and be, an anchor for SmackDown and then on Raw and then on SmackDown and then all that other kind of stuff, Mia Yim's more than capable. Move them both up.
I would agree.
If Kross is injured, that sucks because that means that deprives us of even a purpose for this.
Okay, so Hunter basically said he's hurt, but we're going to get him an MRI and maybe it's something he'll be able to work through. It's really a work in progress. As all this news is still coming out, I just wanted to...
That's good to know, though. Yeah.
Get it going.
Now, that's even more so once they get that MRI, if we get some kind of... I almost said an MMA. Once they get that, if they get bad information or something like that, we might get some kind of weird thing on NXT this next week where they might say, well, Karrion Kross is injured. He won the title, but whatever. Now we need to crown a new champion. And they might literally just pivot back over to Keith Lee and just kind of reset the thing if that's the case. Or maybe they switch it over to someone like a Ciampa and Kross has to beat another whole person all over again or whatever.
Oh, that's another thing. They announced that Ciampa's returning on Wednesday.
Already brought it up.
All right. Well,
So
listen, Tony,
attention? Yeah.
I'm clearly doing a bunch of different things.
But I mean, I kind of was assuming that maybe they would be setting up the idea of a Kross and Ciampa rematch. Well, now that might not be the case if he is injured. Maybe they switch it over in a different way. Maybe it becomes Ciampa returns, and if we need to get a new champion, maybe he wins the championship. Or maybe they have no idea what they want to do because this was obviously not the plan for him to get injured. But I didn't really love the match, to be honest.
Would you be into the idea of Karrion Kross and Keith Lee in a Mimosa Mayhem match?
No, but I think if AEW did it, people would be like, "This is the best stuff ever," and if WWE did it, they'd be like, "This is some hokey bullshit."
Yeah. Carry on.
Carry on.
Yeah, well,
Jesus.
No, don't shut up. Just shut up.
Okay.
Let me take over instead.
NXT TakeOver?
Oh,
Come on.
mate. Okay, so you said that you didn't enjoy this match. You didn't like it. I thought this match just flat out sucked. And it might be due to the fact that Kross got injured, and so he was carrying that injury and that hampered his performance. But it was just rest hold after rest hold. It was so slow. It was meandering. It was ponderous. It just didn't really get... Like, what Karrion Kross has done well so far is short, aggressive bursts of action in the matches which can be competitive, but at least he's been... I guess it's the issue, the fact that he's been contained within matches that haven't really gone anywhere longer than like 7 minutes or so. And so he hits this match where he's expected to go 15, 20 minutes, and it's just really, really boring. And he doesn't have a very diverse or interesting moveset. Like, his big move is a Saito suplex, which can look devastating, performs to the right person. Obviously, doing it to someone like Keith Lee is impressive because of the size of Keith Lee, but it's just a Saito suplex.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that he has is a chokehold. And we see plenty of people in WWE and NXT that use chokeholds as a main submission. So he doesn't really stand out in that regards. Obviously, he stands out because he's got Scarlett and he's got the entrance, and he does have a presence about him, which is good.
That's the best part about him.
Yeah, it's the best part about him. And then the bell rings, and then this happens. Especially if he's going to have to do more main event style matches as champion if he isn't like seriously injured and can keep hold of the title for a while. He's going to need to up his performance in main events, because there is a standard for both NXT main events and NXT championship matches. And if this is what we can expect from him going forward, he is not of the right caliber for it.
Yeah, he's very much giving me the feel already that he's a main event guy in theory, but not in execution, and that he probably would be better off on Raw or SmackDown, where they can play a little bit more to that and do the whole Brock Lesnar thing where they're like, oh, this guy just does basically the character work and not the other stuff. We came out of Adam Cole and Keith Lee as champions. They're both quality in-ring performers, and I'm not seeing that from Kross yet.
So I didn't hate this match. Maybe it's because I had just watched a lot of AEW tag team matches, and this just felt like, okay, we're just slowing the pace down and kind of getting back to basics a little. I did like the arm drop thing on the Kross jacket, just because we've been talking about that a lot, and that's a spot that I enjoy in wrestling matches. I did hate the finish. I thought the finish absolutely sucked, because it was just a side suplex, and they did the thing that they did in the women's match where they're like, oh, well, this is clearly it. So I'm waiting for the kick out, because it's not really like a major move, and it's not a major call from the commentators. And then the referee just hits 3 and it's over. Mm-hmm. So, but I just sort of felt like it was a lackluster ending. I didn't hate the match. I love Kross. I think his presentation game is what's missing from wrestling, and hopefully we get better stuff from him in the future.
I really feel like it's a shame that they didn't know ahead of time, which they couldn't, of course, that this would be a little more underwhelming, that they couldn't have put the Pat McAfee match on last. That would have been a better main event, I think.
It would have been a better main event. I still think that you should have put the NXT Championship match on last. It's just a case of,
in theory,
you should have. I think realistically, you should have played to Karrion Kross's strengths, and you should have had him not so much squash Keith Lee, but it should have been a lot shorter. That would have hidden it a bit more.
And you know what? If it would have happened a few months down the line where Keith Lee had a championship reign, I probably wouldn't dislike it if that would have happened. Because then at that point, they would have probably built up Karrion Kross even better too. And then it would have been like, okay, he's running through everybody, and he just happened to also run through Keith Lee. At this point, it's like, who's this guy beating? He beat Ciampa in a squash. That's a big deal. But then he's beaten like Lorcan and Burch and Bronson and like what? So it's like, okay, they're not slouches. They're not, Denzel Dejournette, where it's like, okay, this guy's clearly not going to win any kind of a match, but they're He destroyed
Dijakovic as well.
Yeah, Dijakovic, yeah. And like, that's an impressive thing, but it's still just okay, you've had a handful of matches already, and now you're taking down the guy who beat the longest reigning champion and was a double champion and all that. I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me.
So I think it's one of those things that they're working with the skeleton crew. He beat as many NXT mainstays as he could without, running through Gargano and Dream as well. But they're working with the best they can, and it's just one of those things that we're gonna have to kind of take the loss on this one because that was the best they could do.
Well, I just feel like, especially if Lee is going up to the main roster, there's no harm in having him be, I don't want to say destroyed, but just be beaten convincingly in main event. Because at the end of the day, very few people that watch Raw and SmackDown actually watch NXT as a proportion of the fan base, and probably even smaller number of that watch takeovers. So it's not like it's going to hurt him tremendously if he was to be defeated soundly in this and then go up to the main roster. Most people just see him as a new guy, or a guy they saw at the. Oh, I saw that guy at the Royal Rumble a couple of months back. I wonder whatever happened to him, that sort of thing. So I just feel like that would have played to Kross's strengths a little bit more. It would have made it seem like, okay, this guy is like this new unbelievable force in NXT because he's only been around for a couple of months and he's left a trail of bodies in his wake and he's already like defeated the champion soundly. So who's going to be the guy that takes him down? Whereas this just felt like them trying to do the standard, typical NXT big match main event with a guy who's not ready for that level yet.
Yeah, and I don't blame Keith Lee either, for that matter. We've seen enough from Keith Lee that I know that he's a damn good performer. I think this is solely on Kross.
No, yeah, anything that Keith Lee was doing in the match was infinitely better than Kross. It was just a case of Kross did his few things, but he couldn't extend it out over a 20-minute period. So he needs to get more. I don't say get more diverse, but he needs to get. They even need to decide, okay, this guy is limited in what he can do in the ring, so we need to keep his matches more compact and play to his strengths of just destroying people and have that presence and that aura about him of being an absolute killer. Or he needs to get more reps under his belts with guys who are like the likes of Ciampa and Gargano and Finn Balor, people that just are great in the ring. Get more matches with him and other people, and hopefully he gets better over time. But he's champion now, so I'd personally prefer them go with the former.
Is this the first time in maybe ever, but definitely a considerable amount of time, that NXT's champions aren't work rate guys? Because I wouldn't consider Damian Priest a work rate guy either.
Oh, but you've got EO and you've got Imperium, and they're both, and Santos Escobar, and I think that they're all pretty much in the work rate category.
Yeah, it's true. Well, who knows? Maybe we see another facelift in NXT where it's going to become more about the characters.
Well, in which case, Damian Priest needs to develop one.
Good one.
If Kross does have a separated shoulder, do you guys remember what the estimated recovery rate is for that offhand? Is that one of those things where it's like 2 months, or is it one of those things where it's like half a year or a whole year or whatever?
Are you suggesting I'm a doctor?
In the call? Yeah, do we need to get Ethan in the call quickly for this?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've had plenty of separated shoulder stories over the past few years. I'm just blanking on who the last one was and how long it took them, whatever.
I think it would be a few months at the very least. I mean, it depends how, I guess it would depend how much it's separated, or if the separations have any sort of complications attached to it or not. Because it's not a dislocation. Dislocation would be something that would just take a few weeks probably at the most to deal with. But a separation that could extend into several months, I'd imagine. So I don't think that if it does prove that to be the case, I don't think he would be able to hold on to the NXT Championship.
Ethan, let us know.
Yeah, let me know if I'm completely wrong on investigations, but I'm going with at least the assumption that I think that he will be, if he does have a separated shoulder, they'll have to crown a new NXT champion.
Yeah, I really hope that's not the case. I'd rather them, if they can, even do this, of course, because it depends on how long it takes and whatever. It would be one of those rare situations where I'd actually be okay with them having a champion who doesn't show up. If it's just like Kross makes an appearance here once in a while with like a promo and they just drag this out for like a month or two or something. It all depends too on when we're going to get our next takeover, because we don't know when that's going to be. Rumor that could be on the 4th of October. They could do a fill-in thing for that planned NXT TakeOver in Dublin for the UK side of things. We know we have been getting War Games right before Survivor Series, so maybe that's in the mix. I don't know, but if he can't compete before, at the very least Survivor Series in November, then they got to look at that and go, all right, there's no chance. And then let's just need a new champion. And that'll completely kill off all this whole point of Karrion Kross having won that title. But, if I'm looking on the glass half full side of things for something that I'm not a big fan of, if it ends up being the case where Kross is injured, we need to crown a new champion, and Keith Lee goes up to the main roster, then at least Keith Lee lost to Karrion Kross, as opposed to they just had him drop the title to, I don't know, take your pick. Like he lost to a guy that's been built up as a monster.
Yeah, it's. I know it's like it's the right person to do it, but they wanted to strap the rocket behind Kross, and he won the title from it. So there's no shame in Keith Lee losing somebody they've been building up for a good couple of months.
Yeah, and I think whatever happens, Keith Lee will be fine.
He's too good not to be, so he'll bounce back.
Vince has already shown interest in him. I mean, see the way that they booked him against Brock and against the people in the Survivor Series match. He will be totally fine.
Well, like with anything else, of course, we're going to try to see how this plays out in the future. And of course, anything that does happen, we will give you more information about that when we know. You'll be finding that all over the place on smarkandmoment.com in all sorts of different fashions, whether it's, the SummerSlam stuff that we're going to be doing tomorrow night with that pay-per-view, or whether it's the NXT coverage over Wednesday and future TakeOver events and blah, blah, blah. Just keep paying attention to this channel on YouTube or wherever you're listening to us. Keep checking the page on smarkandmoment.com, because that's just going to be an influx of content with whatever it is going on in WWE and AEW and elsewhere. And that's kind of all that there is to say as far as I'm aware of TakeOver 30. Some big positives, some smaller positives, a couple little negatives. One big negative if Kross is injured. Not the best pay-per-view, not my major option for pay-per-view of the year, but I liked it, so it's something that I'm not going to be complaining about, really. Maybe just the main event.
I thought it was, from what I saw, it looked like an eventful night, and I'm seeing a lot of the clips of the ladder match, and it seems like it was a pretty big show.
Yeah, least favorite takeover of the year for me, but still a good show.
Alrighty, everybody, so tell us your thoughts. I plugged pretty much everything that I need to plug, except for just a real quick run around, but these guys have some other things that are out there that you should be checking out, as well as the things that I've been mentioning. Rob?
Yeah, you can check out Fightful, check out WrestleZone. There will be some exclusive stuff from tonight's Dynamite and from the media call over on Fightful and Fightful Select, including why a Rey Mysterio reference had to be cut out of tonight's Dynamite. So just check out all that stuff. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice, and check out Paul Heyman's SmackDown podcast. But to tell you more about that, here's Callum Liggins.
Yeah, so every Saturday on the Smark Moment channel, wherever you listen to our podcast, there is the Paul Heyman SmackDown show where me and Rob go back to the year 2002, check out all of the episodes of SmackDown that Paul Heyman was the head writer for. So the one that has just gone into your feeds earlier today would have been the episode where the build, like the go home show.
That's the go home show for
SummerSlam 2002. And then this Tuesday there will be a review of the SummerSlam 2002 event itself on the Patreon for Darkcast members. So if you are on that tier, hopefully you look forward to that review as well. You can follow me on Twitter at WickedMeister14. Check out all the articles on smarkandmoment.com, including the power rankings. And also the news that we revealed on Wednesday was the fact that the Fantasy League is coming back. So the results from the SummerSlam pay-per-view, which is coming up tomorrow, will determine who will go first with that. So we'll maybe have a quick review of the order based on the results of SummerSlam on tomorrow's post-show. And then sometime next week, we'll do the draft of it, and then we're off to the races.
Yeah, so those are the things you have coming your way most immediately, everybody. That SummerSlam post-show coming up tomorrow night, or I guess, well, technically tonight when you're listening to this, most likely, because this isn't going to get up until at least in the morning. But we got that on Sunday night. Then we got the Fantasy League draft of whatever our teams are going to be, whether that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something along those lines. We're going to do it. Still haven't quite figured that out yet. We've got Payback coming up next week. So we're going to do another Pay-Per-Viewpoint predictions preview of that. There's too many P's there. Pay-Per-Viewpoint predictions preview of Payback. Just like And then, of course, we're going to do the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show of Payback. There's another couple of P's. All these P's.
Lots of alliteration here on Smark.
Yeah, Peter Parker picked a peck of Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-shows for Payback. And the whole setup with that is going to continue on. And then after that, where we have, we would normally be like, wow, we're done with all the pay-per-views and we can move on to something else. Nope, then it'll be all out. And then after that, then hopefully at the beginning of September, we'll be able to do some other things. And then we'll move on to Clash of Champions and so on and so forth. But it's already at that point where we're looking at having a game plan for the whole rest of the year. And that kind of makes me go, oh, crap, I'm old. And time's flying by, even though it's taken forever. So pay attention to everything that's here. If you, of course, have not subscribed, do that. Ring that little notification bell to be aware of when things go up. Join the membership platform on YouTube. Hit up the Patreon. And just be safe and be nice to everybody, because we need more of that in the world. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.